Okay, so now we're ready to do the fourth triangle. And again, we have to fold on the line. So we're going to pull this away, pull the paper away from that stitching. Fold over right on the line. And I've been using the add a quarter ruler, but if you don't have that, you can just take a regular ruler. It has a 1/4 inch line there. Line up the 1/4 inch on your fold and then cut along your ruler edge. And again, don't worry about it if it's not exactly a 1/4 inch, because you already sewed your seam, so you don't have to worry about it. You're not using that edge for a guide. The only thing you're using it for is to know where to place this piece of fabric. And you know, if you have to bring it down some to make sure it's covered, or bring it up a little bit more to make sure it's covered. And if you want to test, if you want to test your fabric to see if it's going to cover it all, you can always do, excuse me, you can always do a couple pins just along the sew line. Probably don't need it so much on this pattern, but some of the other patterns, if you have an odd shaped triangle or rectangle or whatever, triangles, if they're odd shaped, they can be tricky to get in the right place. So you would fold this over as if you actually had done the sewing already, and then you can see through the light whether it's going to go past your sew line by at least a 1/4 inch. So that that works perfectly. That gives me plenty of fabric to cover the size of that piece. So let me take these pins out. Getting a little wrinkled there. I'm going to press it real good. So by cutting that 1/4 inch, and then if you line up your next piece, you should be in good shape. But feel free to make adjustments if you need to. Okay, so you're going to sew down this line again. Trim my threads, take my pin out, and I'm going to finger press. Press with the iron and then give it a little bit of water. And most of these edges lined up. This one didn't, but don't worry about it because you have plenty of fabric, and that's all going to get trimmed off when we do this corner piece. Okay, so now on to the outside corners, and it's the same technique, same process. We did B5, so now we're on B6, which is up here. So we need to fold on this line. So I'm going to tear away the paper off those stitches from the previous pieces. Put my cardboard down. Fold right there on the line. So this add a quarter ruler has a little lip, and it's catching the cardboard on this side of it. And so it's real quick and easy to find that 1/4 inch mark. trim. Okay, so now we're going into the cream fabrics. Those are upside down. And again, because these are symmetrical, you basically just have to center it and you'll be a-okay. Put your straight line on the trimmed, on this trim line. Pin it. We're going to flip it over and sew down that line. And again, I like to start outside of the sew line by at least 1/4 inch. So this extra line, this extra paper is the seam allowance that you'll need in order to sew your block to another block or to the border. Okay, take my pen out. Just going to finger press this. So you want to be careful with these because this is the bias of the fabric and it is stretchy, so you don't want to stretch it out of shape, pull it out of shape. Just press down. Don't iron your fabrics. You just want to press down, gently move it, press down. A little water. So like this section right here, there are a lot of layers right there. So we want to get that really nice and flat. That's looking good. All right. Now the next one is B7 on the other side here. I'm going to tear my papers away from the extra stitches. Fold the paper over. Trim the 1/4 inch. Close my rotary cutter. Every time you put it down, close it up. Okay, same as this corner. These are symmetrical, so just going to center that. Flip it over and stitch that along that line. We'll do a finger press. A little water. And you can see where the points are coming together. That is because of the paper piecing technique. You're able to get really good points, very tiny pieces on some patterns. Okay, number 8 is over here. I'm going to, now I've got a little bit of stitching over here on the ends too. So gently pull it apart. It's okay if the paper separates, you just don't want to have a big tear in it. Just gently pull the paper away from the previous stitching. And if you don't want to be pulling the paper apart like that, then do a back stitch and don't sew into your seam allowance. I'm just going to fold those little corners over, not a big deal if you don't. They'll just get trimmed off. But I'm going to fold them over. Make sure everything's laying flat. Trim that. Okay. Again, right sides together. Line those up. Get it evenly left to right. Flip it over and sew along that line. Little finger press. I like to get a lot of water right there where that seam is,